Oh, I got let go from a job, but I've got money in the bank. I'll be okay for a few months. I've got food in the freezer. My payments are up. I can be okay. Well, as long as you're okay, why do you even need God? God says 32,000 men are too many. You will claim the victory for yourself. So he trims them down. Verse 3, now therefore proclaim to the hearing people, say, whoever is fearful and afraid, let him turn and depart once from Mount Gilgal. And 22,000 of the people returned, and 10,000 remained. I can't imagine General Douglas MacArthur standing up. All you Marines that are scared to death, y'all just go ahead and get back on the boat. I think we'll take care of it for the ones that can remain. 32,000 men are there. Gideon stands up and says, all of you that are afraid, y'all go ahead and go back. He's only got 10,000. He didn't think 32,000 was enough. That's the first test. He got rid of his assets. He got rid of that which he was holding on to. That what he was counting on by sight, not by faith. You see here that God had another test for him. Look at verses 4 through 8. After those 10,000 remained, the Lord said to Gideon, the people are still too many. Bring them down to the water. I'll give them a test for you there. Then it will be that whom you say, this one that goes with you, the same shall go down with you. And whoever I say to you, this one shall not go with you, the same shall not go. So he brought the people down to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, everyone who laps water with his tongue laps as a dog, and you shall set him apart by himself. Otherwise, everyone who gets down on his knees to drink. And the number of those who lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, was 300 men. But all the rest of the men got down on their knees to drink water. And the Lord said to Gideon, by the 300 men lapped, I will save you and deliver the Midianites into your hand. Let all the other people go, every man to his place. So the people took the provisions, and the trumpets, and the trumpets, and the provisions, and the trumpets, and they're going into battle. Anybody been in battle? Here comes your soldier, your commander, your sergeant. Guys, kind of weak on armor here. Don't have any shotguns, don't have any rifles, don't even have any swords or knives. You see, I've got these clay pots. I've got these candles with some lighting there for you. And I've got this trumpet. And that's your ammunition for this battle. These 300 guys are looking around at those 29,000 who left and saying, is it too late to go with them? I'm not sure about all this. Sometimes people have suggested that this test, this water test, was really to determine how good soldiers would get down and receive water and other ones would not. But the true issue of this is God wanted to weed out to the minimum amount of men so that no one could ever say, in Israel's own might, in Israel's own ability, in Israel's own power. Look at verse 12. Now the Midianites and Amalekites, all the people of the east were lying in the valley as numerous as locusts, and their camels were without number, as the sand by the seashore in multitude. Gideon had to hone in into this frequency, because by now everybody's calling him nuts. This weakest of the smallest is having his faith stretched. What is faith that's really not being stretched? You know what it is? It's contentment. It's complacency. It's just being comfortable. going with the flow. You see, if you're in this situation, your faith isn't really being stretched. And if you're in the midst of being pulled and stretched and tossed about, and your life is all messed up and you don't understand, maybe you're in the middle of a faith test. Maybe you're right in the middle where God wants you to be. Maybe you are where God wants to prove who He is to those around you. You see, Gideon had to believe in God's power and in God's control. You see, sometimes God does that for us. He reduces the size of our army. Sometimes He eliminates that support system. Sometimes He just knocks those props out from underneath of us. No more can we lean on that crutch, but we are standing on God's power and His strength. Well, why would He do this? Is He a cruel God? Is He mean? Why would He allow these situations to go on in our life? You see, He wants us to see who He is. He wants us to see His ability, His power. These times we often question God's goodness. Sometimes we even start questioning, are we in God's will? Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? Are we being punished for something? Maybe all the while, God is just creating a situation to really give us a God-sized victory. Living in this frequency of faith means that I deliberately depend on God's power, and I deliberately depend on His resources. Gideon wants to teach us one more lesson. Look at verse 16 through 20 of chapter 7. He divided the 300 men into 3 separate companies, and he put a trumpet in everybody's hand, and with empty pitchers or clay pots and torches inside the pitchers. And he said to them, look at me and do likewise. Watch, and when I come to the edge of the camp, you shall do as I do. Now, guys, we're about to go into battle. And I'm going to give this group a trumpet, and I'm going to give this group clay pots, and have a torch. Okay? And that's going to be our ammunition as we go in and we defeat these Midianites. Can you see it now? Do you picture it? Verse 18. Gideon says, now when I blow the trumpet, and all who are with me, then you will also blow your trumpets every side of the whole camp, and say, the sword of the Lord and Gideon. So Gideon and the 100 men that were with him came to the outpost of the camp, and beginning in the middle of the watch, which was the middle of the night, just as they had posted watch, they blew the trumpets and they broke these clay pots, these pitchers that were in their hands. And then 300 companies blew the trumpets, broke the pitchers, that they held the torches in their left hands and the trumpets in their right hands, and for blowing, and they cried, the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. Can you imagine what's going on? Anyone that's not tuned in to the plan of God is starting to say, now hold on, this is really sounding kind of silly. This doesn't even make a bit of sense. Maybe they're starting to say, this is really starting to sound ridiculous. However, these guys got together. They obeyed and they listened. Verse 21 and 22 tells us that they received the victory. Every man stood in his place around the camp. These Midianites in the middle of the night hear this crazy noise, this sound, these clay jars breaking. They wake up and they see this torchlight all over the place. And then they hear these trumpets blasting. And they hear these 300 men, but they don't know how many it is. It's dark. And they start hearing the sound, the sword of the Lord of Gideon. And they grab their swords to go out and fight, and they start stabbing each other. And they start running for the hills to hide. They defeat themselves. verse